Broadcasting live from atop the Rocky Mountains, the crossroads of the West. You are listening to the Liberty RoundTable Radio Talk Show.
Yeah, buddy. Hard-hitting talk continues. Radio, TV, YouTube, Rumble, LibertyRoundTable.com, LovingLiberty.net. Everywhere around the world, hard-hitting talk at your fingertips. We bring to you news the networks refuse to use, truth tellers. Oftentimes we talk about the same stories as the mainstream press, but we certainly have a different take every time. One of the unique details of how Liberty Roundtable Live works is we don't want to bring up a problem and just complain and have you leave feeling like, man, that sucked. That was horrible. I don't want to be involved in that. It's just, I don't feel good when I get done with the show. I feel like it's depressing and frustrating and I'm just in a panic all the time. No. We want to come back and say, listen, I don't care what problems we have in the world. We can face them. We're robust, right? We're robust. It's God family country. And in that, you turn to God. He can solve your problems. A buddy of mine says, hey, you take the problem to the foot of the bed in prayer at night, and you wake up in the morning and you can have the answer. I agree with him. He's right. We need to look at God and family and country as the solutions to our problems. There's no problem we can't solve if we're on the right side of history, if we're on the right side with God, right? That's the key. People need to understand that. All right, I got an interesting email from Ron Paul. He's always spot on. His headline's, again, killer. Here it is. Can't afford a vacation? Blame the Fed, says Ron Paul. Boy, do I agree with that reality, right? He's right. According to data collected by the research firm called Statista, 29% of Americans can simply not afford to take a vacation this year. Wow. A vacation, by the way, is not the only thing that Americans are struggling to afford. The failure of wages to keep up with, quote, price inflation is why household debt hit a record level of $18.4 trillion this year, with the average household owing more than $100,000. Whoa. The Federal Reserve is responsible for the decline in American living standards and the rising income equality. They say this, listen, the turning point in the people's, quote, economic fortunes was on August 15th, 1971. Now, isn't that interesting? Because before that, we had gold and silver as our core money. And we went off the gold standard and all that kind of stuff around 71. I don't have the exact date, but it correlates in the early 70s for sure. And that's when we kind of crossed the Rubicon. Okay, you didn't have income equality. All right, your fortunes changed. You could prosper and do well before 71. After that, it's been a continued downward spiral in terms of the equality of what your wages bring versus what inflation, the havoc that wreaks. That's when President Richard Nixon closed the gold window, severing the last link between the dollar and gold. This left America with a purely fiat currency and no restraint whatsoever on the Federal Reserve's ability to create money out of thin air. When the Federal Reserve pumps money into the economy, the new money is not equally distributed. It first goes to the wealthy and the well-connected individuals. These individuals benefit from having, quote, increased purchasing power because the new money causes price increases. But since they got a lot of money and they're getting it first, they get to escape the consequences, right? The Fed also contributes to, quote, economic instability and inequality by creating bubbles that distort the signals sent by the market. This causes overinvestment in some sectors. When bubbles burst, workers employed in certain sectors simply end up losing their jobs, while those at the top often just suffer a minor setback. The government bails out the, quote, too big to fail corporations, but the government never considers workers and homeowners too big to fail, you see. And that's the reason that I brought this up last hour with Heath. You know, you get this big corporate farm mentality, and these big corporate farms become too big to fail. Then the government starts, pretty soon it's government farming, G-farm. And, okay, then they're getting the bailout, just like the auto industry did. That's why it's called government motors. I mean, GM, right? And, okay, we've got to look out for that. And what happens is the people at the top always do well. Let's say that I own a business, and I have 5,000 construction workers. Crap hits the fan, not good. I just simply say, okay, well, I've got 3,000 workers now. Sorry to you 2,000. I hate to say it, but things are kind of slim. But I'm not at the top really taking a hit at all. In fact, I might even get some government incentives to stay alive if I'm, quote, too big to fail, right? The Federal Reserve facilitates the growth of the, quote, welfare warfare state by purchasing treasury bonds, thus monetizing federal debt. The majority of government spending, by the way, ladies and gentlemen, is on programs benefiting powerful special interests. This includes, in large part, the military-industrial complex, which gobbles up more money from the government every single year. But so does the interest on the debt, ladies and gentlemen. There's no value in the interest on the debt. Why are we paying a banking cartel interest on fraudulent money? Well, we say that's the way governments set it up. That's the way Congress set it up. They have no authority to dictate fiat money over constitutional currency. See, that's the problem. They're not obeying the Constitution. The Federal Reserve's, quote, continued devaluation of the dollar to finance an empire abroad and a, quote, welfare state at home is indeed the driving force behind the erosion of the people's living standards. As the dollar continues to lose purchasing power, demand for government assistance skyrockets, leading to more government spending, thus leading to more debt, then debt monetization, and then a further decline in living standards. You see the circling the drain mentality that fake money brings to the table? Well, Donald wants to have the Fed lower the interest rates, wants to just manipulate more. Trump wants to change the Fed chairman. Trump wants to get friendlies on the Fed board, whatever you want to call it, Federal Reserve Board. None of those things are the answer. All that's doing is, piddling around the edges, right? The fact that almost a third of Americans cannot afford a vacation illustrates how fiat money harms all Americans. The continued growth of federal debt, the debt-created inflation, will eventually lead to a major economic crisis. This will further be induced by the rejection of the dollar as world currency and the world currency status. That will lead to the rise of demagogues, authoritarians on both the left and the right. They'll basically promote political violence, leading to an increase in government repression. Those of us who know the truth, ladies and gentlemen, must speak out. We must explain that the solution to our problems is a vacation from the welfare warfare state and the fiat money system that facilitates unchecked government growth at the expense of the people and our standards of living and liberty. Limited government, ladies and gentlemen. Free markets, peaceful relations, and free trade, which really means fair trade, with as many nations as possible are components to the path to lead to peace and prosperity. That's the answer. Anyway, Ron Paul, stellar column. And I wanted to highlight a lot of that because Ron Paul is one of the leading experts on honest money in America today. He's been at it for decades. Congressman, I can't remember how many terms, but he was a congressman for a lot of years. Now he runs a Campaign for Liberty. Great organization. Just spot on. And with that big discussion we had with Heath last hour, I wanted to kind of dovetail Ron Paul's column that I just got in my email. It isn't about vacation. What it's about is prosperity and the lack thereof in America today. Okay? All right, I've got a whole lot more news the networks refuse to use. Straight ahead, you're watching and listening to Liberty Roundtable Live.
Introducing PrepStartsNow.com, your ultimate guide to readiness and peace of mind. We offer practical preparedness tools, training, and education to take your family's household readiness to the next level. Browse the prep shop for essential products, check out our planning guides, and stay informed with our prep blog. Visit PrepStartsNow.com and subscribe to our emails for exclusive offers, new products, and future events. Remember, preparedness begins with PrepStartsNow.com.
Former Sheriff Richard Mack recounts in his book The Proper Role of Law Enforcement how he came to realize while working as a beat cop how wrong the all-too-common orientation of police officers is when they think of their job as being to write tickets and arrest people. Richard Mack tells of his personal transformation from by-the-number cop to Constitution-conscious defender of citizen safety and freedoms. Learn what it really means to serve and protect. Purchase your copy at CSPOA.org. That's CSPOA.org.
The Foundation for Moral Law is a nonprofit legal foundation committed to protecting our unalienable right to publicly acknowledge God. The Foundation for Moral Law exists to restore the knowledge of God in law and government and to acknowledge and defend the truth that man is endowed with rights not by our fellow man, but by God. The foundation maintains a twofold focus. First, litigation within state and federal courts. Second, education. Conducting seminars to teach the necessity and importance of acknowledging God in law and government. How can you help? Please make a tax-deductible contribution, allowing foundation attorneys to continue the fight. You may also purchase various foundation products as well at morallaw.org. Located in Montgomery, Alabama, the Foundation for Moral Law is a nonprofit, tax-exempt 501c3 founded by Judge Roy Moore. Please partner with us to achieve this important mission. morallaw.org.
All right, hard-hitting talk at your fingertips continues, ladies and gentlemen. Ron Paul, incredible column, Can't Afford a Vacation. Blame the Fed, Ron Paul. I agree, we don't need to blame the president. We don't need to blame, well, we should blame Congress, right? They're the ones that basically created the Fed. They're the ones that could shut it down in an instant. President Trump could do the same thing if he truly wanted to. There's a way to just, say we're not going to use dishonest money anymore. There absolutely is. All right, the government shutdown now, people are saying, may have backfired on Republicans. And I agree with that. I've been saying that forever. I said, you know what, Mike Johnson, you shouldn't be home twiddling your thumbs. You shouldn't be shutting down everything. President Trump, you shouldn't be withholding SNAP benefits if the courts say to pay them. Hey, pay them for now. But we need to not worry about opening or closing government. I don't know what a government shutdown means, because most of government is still operating. Just ask your congressman or your senator if they got their paycheck, and they'll have to tell you yes. And then you say, well, how does that happen in a shutdown? Well, because they've basically engineered the shutdown to bring pain to you and me, right? They've engineered it to bring pain to you and me. So all the things that bring pain are the things that are in the shutdown. All the things that don't bring pain aren't really, on the table. That just runs per normal. I mean, you ask your congressman or senator, say, hey, when we say the government shut down, what percent of government's operating? And they literally tell you that it costs more money when the government's shut down than when the government's open. So what does that even mean? Well, the government shutdown may have backfired on Republicans. I agree with that. But again, what Mike Johnson should have been doing is saying, hey, government's partially shut down, but we're not going to operate as if it's shut down because we're getting paid. So we're going to come to work and we're going to do our very best to try to open any piece of government that we possibly can that's non-partisan, that's non-political. that doesn't really relate to the battle at hand. The Democrats are mad because they want to promote socialism and health care to illegals. The Republicans are saying, no, we're not going to give illegals all the health care. So we're going to shut everything down over that. Fine. But I'm saying fund the air traffic controllers. They don't have anything to do with the government shutdown. They don't have anything to do with any of that. It's not political. It's not. But what might happen is Mike Johnson might say, well, no, I don't want to give the Democrats satisfaction of anything. Again, this party has got to stop. Partisan politics has got to stop. All right? You can't afford a vacation, blame the Fed. Fine. Now government shutdown may have backfired on Republicans. My response is, you think? I told you that. I told you that when you sit at home and take money, the air traffic controllers are not getting paid, but you're sitting at home taking money. No offense, but you're as dishonest as it gets. You shouldn't be taking money for no day's work, right? Well, anyway, now the traffic control system is in peril, okay? The FAA announced that it will reduce air traffic by 10% in 40 high-volume markets right away, okay? Think about it, 10% in 40 high-volume markets. They say it'll start November the 7th. What does that mean, tomorrow? Yeah, it's November 6th, so starting tomorrow. They say their goal is to maintain safety during the ongoing government shutdown. Now, I've been the one saying this is a national security issue. This is a safety issue. Okay, this should be nonpartisan. There is no better time for Mike Johnson to double down and put a bill in the hopper and say, hey, we're voting on this today. Because if you pass it, then it's up to the Senate. And if they pass it, it's up to President Trump. Will you fund the air traffic controllers so we don't have a crisis on our hands? So we don't have to reduce air traffic 10% and start shutting down thousands of flights? They say this reduction will affect thousands of flights nationwide. FAA administrator, guy's name is Brian Bedford, highlighted the impact of these, quote, staffing shortages among the air traffic controllers who have been unpaid since the shutdown began on October the 1st. We're over a month with no money. Now, the sad part is these people are forced to work. It's a disgrace, folks. Now, the transportation secretary, along with Bedford, Sean Duffy, plan to consult with airline executives to discuss the implementation of these reductions. Well, Sean, I don't want you doing that. I want you to put pressure on Congress to get those clowns back in business. I don't care if you have the government shut down or not. I want them to vote on a single bill, an emergency bill, to fund the traffic controllers so this measure doesn't have to happen at all. They say additional measures may be taken if necessary. Wow. I don't know how to respond to this. This is just insane. And I think the Republicans, the longer this shuts down now, the Democrats are going to gain the upper hand. They're simply going to say, hey, we care about people. You don't. They're going to own the narrative pretty soon. And the Republicans are going to look bad. Now, I'm not suggesting that we should cave. Listen carefully. I don't bring up problems without solutions, baby. So listen up. I'm not saying that the Republicans should cave and open the government, which they probably will do. They'll probably cave. They'll probably give socialism, to the Democrats. Because the Republicans are really socialists many times in sheep's clothing. Sad to say, but true. Yes, I'm willing to call a spade a spade. Not all of them, but a lot of them are really, they pretend they're conservative. They pretend they're, want to watch the budgets and they don't want to, fund health care and all these government programs, but they really do. Proof is they've been telling you they're going to shut down the education department since Reagan and company opened it back in the day, right? Disgrace. But I digress, except to say this. Understand, folks, that I'm not suggesting that they cave. I'm suggesting they hold the line. But when they hold the line and say we're not going to give illegals government health care, we're just not doing that. And if you want to get the food stamp program or SNAP reviewed to say we don't want to give SNAP benefits to illegals or SNAP benefits to the able-bodied, I agree. But you know what? Let Doge and company review that plan. let it stop benefits to some, but let's get SNAP up and running in the meantime. Now, if you want to say, hey, we're going to sunset SNAP, it's an unconstitutional program, we eventually need to get rid of it, fine. I support that 100%. What I don't support, though, is crashing the plane. All of a sudden, it's like, hey, we don't have any solutions for this, and people are going to be starving, and Trump, for political reasons, is going to withhold SNAP money, even though the courts say to send it. Now you're tampering with the checks and balances. Now you're tampering with the stability of this country. I'm not for stealing. But if you deny everybody SNAP and then someone steals, I mean, it's wrong to steal. But there is a moral imperative that says, hey, if you're really honestly hungry and you have no other way to get food and you steal food, is it wrong to steal? The answer is yes, it's wrong. Absolutely. Stealing's always wrong. But there's kind of a moral imperative, a hierarchy of values that says, I mean, I don't want to die and say I starved to death because I wasn't willing to steal. I guess at that point you steal. At that point, okay, so we're creating crises out of nothing. We're creating political divisions that needs to stop. Okay? And so I'm recommending the Republicans put bills on the table immediately. I recommended this right when the shutdown started, well over a month ago. Put bills on the table that are single issue, that are not political, that are not divisive, that are common sense. And the more of those bills you put on the table and force up and down votes on, then you can show who the clowns are. Hey, we tried to fund the air traffic controllers. These 25 people refused. Here they are. Put their names up on the screen and point at them. Create gas pump stickers that point where they used to say Biden did this when your gas pump costs were too high, and say Republicans and Democrats, here's their names, they did that. They won't even fund the air traffic controllers. Okay, so when you can't get to where you want to go this Thanksgiving because the airlines are half shut down, those people, right, did that, right? And that's what you got to do. And the sooner you do that, the better, see? And then you do that with the traffic controllers. And then you do that with SNAP. You say, listen, we're going to fund the most needy groups in SNAP. That are parents with children. When there's children involved, then we're going to say the illegal. Okay, can't do it for the illegals. Sorry. You should leave if you're starving and go somewhere where you know, in the meantime, hey, if you've got children and you're an American citizen, we'll do a narrower release of some SNAP money. Right? We'll partially fund SNAP. Fine. Okay. And then you can go from bill to bill to bill and start to open government. But you're doing so very strategically. You're doing so to not anger and frustrate the American people. So a bill might say this, we're going to fund the air traffic controllers. Great. Now we're going to say, we're not going to take any money. We, the Congress, 535 members, are not going to take any money until this gets solved. You owe that to us. Or you can resign if you don't want to do it without any money. You can resign and say, I'm not willing to serve the people without pay. Well, you shouldn't get pay if the government's shut down, see? So we need to make some very hard decisions. We need to really realize that, hey, this government shutdown is going to have undesirable effects. And I'm telling you, it isn't going to go well for the Republicans if they keep this up because of Mike Johnson's actions primarily. Congress, get back to work. I don't care if the government's shut down or not. And find ways to bring non-controversial, nonpartisan bills forward. Pass them. And then the American people will really see who's to blame and who's not. And that will set the stage for the midterm elections. Hey, you can run on, I tried to fund the air traffic controllers. I did vote to do. You get a whole list, a whole litany of things that you're trying to do to serve the people who elected you. You follow me? I mean, I'm not very smart and I'm not a political hack. But I will say this. I know ways to put pressure on people and ways to adjust for solutions. That's what we need, solutions. How many people are coming up with solutions like I am, huh? God save us. Hang tight.
How would you like to help this program reach more people and earn silver at the same time? Call or text 801-669-2211 for complete details.
Breaking news this hour from Town Hall. I'm Rich Thomason. Former House Speaker Nancy Pelosi announces that she will not be seeking re-election.
After representing San Francisco for nearly 40 years in Congress, Pelosi will be retiring at the end of her current term. She was the first woman to become Speaker of the House, and she held the position twice. Pelosi's powerful leadership and liberal politics proved to be a thorn in the side of Republican Presidents George W. Bush and Donald Trump. At age 85, Pelosi will be stepping down at a time when many Democrats are clamoring for younger political leaders. Greg Clugston, Washington.
Airports in New York, L.A., and Chicago, along with hubs across the U.S., are among the 40 that will see their number of flights cut by 10% starting tomorrow. It's because of the government shutdown. The death toll has risen to 12 in the fiery crash of a UPS cargo plane at the airport in Louisville, Kentucky. Federal Air Safety Investigator Todd Inman says there's evidence a left engine fell off prior to the crash.
A large plume of fire in the area of the left wing occurred during the takeoff roll. The plane lifted off and gained enough altitude to clear the fence at the end of runway 17R. Shortly after clearing that fence, it made impact with structures and the terrain off of the airport property.
Investigators now analyzing the plane's flight data recorder. A Texas federal judge has dismissed a criminal conspiracy charge against Boeing related to two 737 MAX crashes that killed 346 people. Boeing will have to pay or invest an additional $1.1 billion in fines, compensation for victims' families, and internal safety measures. Watching Wall Street, stocks are in the red. The Dow is down about 375 points. The Nasdaq 383 points lower. More on these stories, townhall.com.
Hey, it's Mike Gallagher, host of The Mike Gallagher Show. I don't mess around when it comes to saving you money. Right now, rates have dropped to the lowest level in over a year and a half. That means if you bought your home or refinanced in the last 3 years, you could be saving hundreds of dollars every month. Lower your rate, lower your monthly payment, even kick that pesky PMI to the curb. And get this, you can skip 2 full months of mortgage payments. But that's not all. Fellowship Home Loans just rolled out something incredible. Their very own HELOC and lines of credit. Approval in just 5 minutes. Money in your account in as little as 4 days. It's the easiest system you've ever used. You can do it yourself online. Whether you want to pay off bills, tackle a home project, cover education, or even a wedding, Fellowship Home Loans makes it simple to leverage the money that's already sitting in your house. Just go to fellowshiphomeloans.com/Mike G, fellowshiphomeloans.com/Mike G, or call 800-510-MIKE, 800-510-MIKE, 800-510-6453. Fellowship Home Loans, mortgage lending guided by the book.
Nationwide Mortgage Bankers, DBA Fellowship Home Loans, Equal Housing Lender, NMLS number 819382.
Mom, you don't know anything about me anymore.
Honey, I know you're good at math. You don't like English. I know Ryan smiled at you yesterday at school. I know your favorite color is purple. And I know you don't like mushrooms. And who can blame you? I mean, mushrooms are a fungus, and people generally try to avoid funguses. Or is it fungi? I'm never quite sure. But, either way, I mean, penicillin is good.
Penicillin is a mold.
Huh. Well, I guess you're right. So you like penicillin, but not mushrooms. Huh?
No matter what you talk about, love is what they'll hear.
Mom, if we talk, will you be quiet?
Love to.
A thought from the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. Visit us at Mormon.org.
Get ready to be part of something incredible. We're breaking barriers and delivering the powerful stories that mainstream media won't touch. Your support is what fuels our mission to revolutionize journalism and bring you the truth. Join our passionate community of changemakers by donating at libertynewsradio.com today. Together, we're creating the future of news.
Do you know what is great about America? Ask an Immigrant. Ask an Immigrant is a new podcast dedicated to helping Americans, especially our youth, value, appreciate, and be grateful for the freedoms we have here in America. Join host Lydia Wallace-Nuttall as she interviews immigrants from around the world to discover their inspiring personal stories about why they came to America. To learn more about why America is the most prosperous, greatest country in the world, download the Loving Liberty app or go to lovingliberty.net.
All right, back with you live, ladies and gentlemen. Sam Bushman, hard-hitting news the networks refuse to use. So, the mainstream press always wants you to believe there's not really any election fraud. Well, they're lying, right? And you know that we've told you they've been lying for a long time, right? Well, now we have more and more evidence that it's true. So there's a sheriff, Patrick Withrow. He's in San Joaquin County, Stockton, California area. He's talking about election fraud in his area. They've been performing an investigation. It's a big, long video. I won't play it all, but I will play the introduction to this. Very interesting what he has to say. Check this out.
And once again, good afternoon. Thank you, everyone, for being here today on such short notice. I'm here today to inform you about an investigation that's been going on with us for quite some time now, and it led to the arrest of Lodi City Council member Shakir Khan today at approximately 8 o'clock this morning. This investigation came to our attention in two different ways. One, through the current investigation against Councilman Shakir Khan that he's been going to court through that you all know about, and also by our private citizens here in San Joaquin County who have been concerned over our election process here in our county and in our state and in our country. And so they have brought some things to our attention that we acted on, and all this led to our final investigation here and the outcome today. I want to make it clear that this investigation has only uncovered criminal activity in our county here in a local election. It has nothing to do, it had no impact on any state or federal elections that we know of at this time. Our investigation uncovered that Councilman Shakir Khan has attempted to undermine, manipulate, and violate one of our most fundamental rights here in our country, and that is the right to free and fair elections. I would like to note that it appears Councilman Shakir Khan has targeted members of his own community, our Pakistani community in the North County. And we are doing everything we can to work with them to make sure that they are protected and that any damage done to them or their families is corrected by this man's actions. So I will be turning it over now to Captain Art Hardy and Lieutenant Andrew Theodore, to go through some of the stuff that I told you about that we have here, the evidence. And then I may interject myself in when I see something that I want to comment on that they're going through. So I'll turn it over.
All right, let's go ahead and stop that. The sheriff kind of laid it out. They're going to go through the evidence and the details. It's on the internet if you want to watch the details of it. And I know they're saying this isn't a situation where it's statewide or federal wide, but it just goes to show, this guy named Khan committed a con, got busted, thanks to Sheriff Patrick Withrow. Doing a great job, by the way. San Joaquin County, which is the Stockton, California area, basically, highlighting election fraud. So with 3,000 sheriffs in the nation, that's why the Constitutional Sheriffs and Peace Officers Association, we at the CSPOA, Sheriff Richard Mack, myself, many others, are saying, hey, we've got to look into election integrity everywhere. It's happening. It's happening on local county levels. It's happening at state levels. It's happening at the general level. Okay? Even the Smartmatic people that have attacked Mike Lindell for quite some time, now they're under scrutiny for their election machines. They claim there was nothing to it, but now even the European Union and some of those people over at the UK, they're starting to say, whoa, wait a minute. These machines aren't good. And so you're starting to see a little bit of truth-telling on this beyond what we've said at the CSPOA and on Liberty RoundTable and all that kind of stuff. And I'm glad to see at least a start. But, I believe you had significant election fraud even in the New York elections, the New Jersey elections, the Virginia elections, the California elections, even just this last election cycle. What was it, 2 days ago? It was on the 4th, so this is the 6th, right? Anyway, because I believe that there's a lot of illegals that have voted. And there's a lot of mail-out vote ballots that are turned in that we don't have appropriate custody of the ballots. In other words, you can't really say that it's an appropriate ballot if you don't have end-to-end custody of those ballots to ensure and no hanky-panky's going on, right? Anyway, a big old shout out to the sheriff over there. Good for you, sir. Thank you for your work. I wonder if it's beyond your county, though. It's a fair question. Well, if you ask Darleaf, well-known sheriff in Michigan, he basically says, hey, this is a massive issue. And he's been doing research on it for years now. He's waiting for his DA, for the attorneys to do something. So far, they're unwilling to cooperate. But I got to commend Darleaf for his efforts, for his attention to these serious, serious matters. All right, I want to go back to what we discussed yesterday. There was an interview between Tucker Carlson and Nick Fuentes. I think it was a great interview. Not because I agree with Nick, and not necessarily because I even agree with Tucker. But I think when America starts talking, it's good. When America quits talking and everybody doubles down into their own, quote, echo chambers, that is not good. Miscommunication, lack of willingness to openly communicate is a bad thing. And so I praised the interview. Well, there was a gentleman over at the Heritage Foundation. He's the president over there, I guess. He now has apologized to staff for the video refusal to cancel Tucker Carlson, throwing shade at former chief of staff. Ileana Johnson is the one with the piece on this. And there's a big, long video that's over an hour long. He said, I made a mistake, and I let you down. And I let down this institution, period. Full stop. Kevin Roberts told employees at an all-staff meeting on Wednesday. So what was that, yesterday, I guess? Yeah. I got a problem with this. Now, I don't really know what the mistake is. I don't know if it's that, hey, we're not going to cancel Tucker. But I don't think we need to just cancel anyone. What's wrong with Tucker putting on Nick Fuentes so that everybody can see what he stands for, what he believes in, and then independently decide if they agree with him or not? I agree with Nick on some things, and I disagree with him on many things. I'm sure I disagree with Kevin Roberts over at the Heritage Foundation on some things. But I disagree with those who are pro-abortion. I agree with those who are pro-birth control for convenience reasons. I'm against those who are violent. I'm against those who are communist and have completely different ideology than me. I'm fine if you have a religious difference from me, a theological difference, but I'm not fine, folks, if you then believe that your religion says you should kill me because I'm an infidel. See, the buck stops there. Whoa, hold on, wait a minute now. You have the right to your beliefs, as do I. My rights end where yours begin. Your rights end where mine begin. So if you want to take the law into your own hands and violate a law of God, my right to life, you've gone too far, see? But anyway, I don't really think it's good that this Heritage Foundation leader just said, oh, I made a mistake. And then he starts talking about our Jewish community and how this and that. We have gone so far in defense of Israel, so far in defense of the Jews, so far into saying, oh my gosh, we're not going to, allow this anti-Semitic behavior. It's so wrong, so evil. We have gone so far down that road to where your free speech is being violated and you're starting to persecute, and I pray we don't, but eventually prosecute anybody who disagrees with Israel for any reason, or anyone who disagrees with a Jew for any reason. Okay? You can't have it about the topic. Let's say a Jew's for abortion. Let's say I'm against abortion. I say, this Jew is for abortion. I'm against this, stance of the Jewish. Can I say that? Or am I now attacking the Jewish religion or the ethnic Jewish whatever? Right? That's the problem. We've gone too far. To prove the point, anti-Semitic is if you're ever against a Jew in any way for any reason, you're anti-Semitic, right? Well, if the table's turned and people are abusing me for being a white male Christian, there's no word for that. There's not even a word to describe the abuse I'm experiencing. How does that work when there's not even a word to describe it? What if we get a word to describe all of it? What would be the word? Would you love thy enemy? Love thy neighbor as thyself? Anything that's opposite of that, in my humble opinion, is a problem. If I'm not going to love my neighbor, what am I going to do? Hate my neighbor, ignore my neighbor, hurt my neighbor? None of those things are acceptable in my mind. Anyway, so I accept that this guy believes he made a mistake, and he has every right to say he made a mistake and speak out to his flock or his people the way he wants to. I made a mistake, and I let you down, and I let this institution down, and I'm sorry, the buck stops with me. I get it. He has every right to say that. But I'm afraid what really happened is he tried to stand up for truth and got smacked down so hard by the Jewish lobby and smacked down so hard by big money people that might fund his organization that his free speech was suppressed. Just like mine and Tucker's, right? More in seconds.
Cybercrime is exploding. Take Sarah from Sweet Delights, whose world crumbled after having to close with not being able to bounce back. Small businesses are prime targets, but the right strategies can keep yours safe. Jay Hill, CEO of Network Providers, has co-authored The Cyber Playbook Simplifies Cybersecurity for Business Owners with Strategies to avoid costly breaches and fines. Build a strong cyber attack response. Secure your business with key protections. Cyber threats aren't slowing down, but you can stay ahead. Protect your business. Ensure its security for tomorrow. Get the Cyber Playbook today at networkprovidersinc.com/cyber-playbook or call 385-446-5500 now.
In the medical field, IT security is crucial. Our highly skilled consultants are HIPAA certified and have 20-plus years of experience servicing medical clinics, billing, and supply companies. We offer comprehensive endpoint protection, guarding your computers and servers against all stages of threats. And with our 24/7 monitoring services, you'll never worry about extensive downtime again. Ready to level up your IT support? Call 801-706-6980 today and discover how great IT services can be with managed IT services.
Experience the untamed spirit of the American West with Range Magazine. Each issue is a visual journey featuring award-winning photography and compelling stories that capture the heart of ranching and rural life. Stay informed on the challenges and triumphs of those who live and work on the land. Subscribe today and receive quarterly editions delivered to your doorstep and join a community that cherishes the enduring legacy of the Western frontier. Visit rangemagazine.com to subscribe.
All right, headline says Republican goes on live TV and betrays Donald Trump in an unexpected move. They say Trump can't believe it. Oh my gosh, this used to be one of his fiercest allies, and now she's gone rogue, they say. On daytime TV, Marjorie Taylor Greene stepped onto The View. I don't know why she should go on The View, but there you go. Again, we keep giving clout, promotion, support to these people that, in my humble opinion, are just, they have every right to their opinion, but I don't have to back them. But why the Republicans are backing that, I don't know. But anyway, so Marjorie Taylor Greene went on The View, and she flipped the script, revealing a more approachable side of herself, while boldly parting ways with President Trump and her fellow Republicans on key issues. Now, here's why this is interesting. I don't know why we think that's a betrayal of Donald Trump, but they say that it is. She says that the men in the Republican Party are weak. Boy, is she right on that. I've been talking about that for quite some time, right? Good for Marjorie Taylor Greene. But it's not a betrayal of Donald Trump to say that the Congress is weak and people in her party are weak. She's parting with Trump for a lot of good reasons, right? I mean, look, who did Trump endorse in the mayoral race? She's got a problem with that. She's saying, why would you back Cuomo, this independent that lost in the primaries, shouldn't even be there, when you could have backed the Republican? And if you don't like the Republican, well, they got the nomination. Are you going to accept the party's nominate or just go rogue whenever you want to? See, so Trump can go rogue and not support the Republican candidate and endorse Cuomo. And that's not a betrayal of anybody or anything, supposedly. But if you then say, no, wait a minute, I don't support that. Now you're betraying Trump. See, this is the problem. They want you to believe that Trump is MAGA and MAGA is Trump and the Republican Party is MAGA and Trump are the Republican Party, and there's no difference in any of those. Wrong, 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 wrong. Shame on you folks for thinking that. That's the problem with partisan politics in the first place. The reality is this. I gauge things on principles. And obviously, Marjorie Taylor Greene does as well. If you are part of a party and that party goes through the proper process and puts a candidate up, you're bound to support that candidate. If you want to leave the party, go ahead. You say, well, Sam, I can back the party when I want to and back a third party when you want to. That's right. You can. Absolutely. And there's nothing wrong with Trump doing that. But if Trump's the party and party's MAGA and MAGA's Trump and all, okay, then you can't do that. You can't do that. If you want to say I'm Trump and I'm separate from the Republican Party and I'm separate from Make America Great Again, yeah, it's my slogan and I support it, but they're not one and the same. Because Sam wants to make America great again. I do. And I've never been a Trump supporter in that I didn't vote for him ever. I haven't voted for him once. No. Because I believe somebody else. So, but here's the problem. Why is Marjorie Taylor Greene now the betrayer? Oh, because she went on live TV to the View of all enemies. Okay, well now Tucker Carlson is an enemy too. And Nick Fuentes is an enemy, and Marjorie Taylor Greene is an enemy, and because Sam Bushman agrees with a lot of those people, now Sam Bushman's an enemy. Yeah, now this poor Roberts guy, I made a mistake and I let you down. The buck stopped with me, right? Mr. Roberts, right? Kevin Roberts, is he really doing what he thinks is right? Or did he do what he thought was right in the first place, but now he's being so severely abused, or whatever you want to say, arm twisting for you better apologize. Okay. Looks like Kevin got canceled, didn't he? Tucker's getting canceled. Marjorie Taylor Greene's getting canceled. Sam Bushman's been canceled forever. Steve Stockman's getting canceled. James Edwards is, I mean, I can keep going, right? What about Rand Paul? Is he getting canceled? Just saying, it's dangerous. So you know what? She has every right to go on TV and say, I don't think Trump should have backed Cuomo. Shame on Donald for that. And I believe the Republican leaders are feckless. They're bogus. They're weak. She's right on all that too. Now that doesn't mean she's going liberal, and the liberals are trying to say, oh yeah, now she's going liberal and showing her liberal side. No, I don't agree with that for 1 second. I just think she has the right to her own mind and the right to her own opinion. Could you imagine that in America, that you can think for yourself and have your own views for your own reasons? Can you imagine that in America? Well, that's unacceptable according to these clowns in the Republican Party that want everybody on the same page. Oh, yeah. Most of those clowns aren't even on the same page with Donald Trump. Isn't that what the problem is? Donald Trump wants to go ahead and fund the government with Joe Biden's plan. And so do the Republicans. But not the Democrats. No, they're the bad guys this time. That's strange. All right, there's a lady, and I don't know anything about her hardly, except this. It's Keoli Van Her, I think is how you say her name. It's just, Keoli Van Her. She won the St. Paul, Minnesota mayoral election, ladies and gentlemen, defeating an incumbent Democratic mayor, Melvin Carter, after a, quote, tabulation of second choice votes. Now, that's an interesting discussion. I don't believe in ranked choice voting, but I guess nobody won enough, and then she won in the second round. She is set to become the first woman and first member of the HMONG, H-M-O-N-G, the HMONG community. Okay. She's going to lead the city starting January 26. Okay, so in a couple of months, she'll be leading it. Now, I don't know what an HMONG community is. Let me explain. I understand what it is, folks. I also understand there's Chinatown in San Francisco, and I also understand that, hey, if you're a homie from the hood, then you live in Compton, California, or Oakland, California, or whatever. And I understand that in Chicago and New York and all these places, there's the Italian districts, and there's all these different, ethnic groups that go look at New York. You'll see what I mean. Okay, I understand all that. But my problem with it is when it comes to an election, I don't support this. I don't want to be the first woman and first member of the Hmong community. I want American communities. I mean, otherwise, I need to decide if I'm going to be what am I going to be in? The Irish, the Scottish, the England, what community do I belong to? Oh my gosh, now I'm a refugee without a community. And not only am I a refugee without a community, I don't have any support. I'm just like a mutt running around with all these different ethnicities in me. And I, go to ancestry.com and check out. I don't even know what I am. I'm just like a white mutt, kind of thing. And there you go. Well, am I really a white mutt? If you just look at genealogy, possibly. What I really am is a son of Almighty God. I've got a godly heritage like nobody's business. And so do you, my fellow Americans. And that's what you need to hold on to. I've also got an incredible American heritage. I don't need a Hmong heritage or a Scottish. It's fine to have that in your background. It's fine to celebrate your ethnicity. It's fine. What's not fine, though, is to say we've got whatever this community is, right? Right? This Hmong community. No, she represents Americans and America. Okay? I don't want to just say, hey, I represent the Scottish community, baby. The rest of you go fly a kite. No. It's America. Well, Sam, every ethnicity can do that, and promote their Hmong community or their Muslim roots or their Mexican, Hispanic heritage or the black African-American heritage. Everybody can do that but you, Sam, because you're just a white mutt, buddy. You can't do any of that. See, that's where it goes off the rails. The Jewish folks can do that for ethnic and religious reasons. What if I say I'm a white Mormon, a white member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, baby? Do I have any special protections? Can I represent my people? What's my people? See, we need to look at our people as the American people, right? Anyway, she was born in Laos. She was a refugee to the United States. And she once claimed that she and her family were illegal migrants. Then later she said, oh no, we're American citizens. She admitted that her father directly broke the law when filling out his refugee paperwork. Now she's a member of the Democratic Farmer Labor Party. Folks, do you know about the Democratic Farmer Labor Party? Oh boy. She previously worked in this guy that was running against her, Carter's office. So this is an example where we're starting to get, people who don't share our culture, people who are, I don't know what you call it, against everything that we stand for? Or does she represent what we stand for? That depends. Is she representing the Hmong community or whatever it is? Is that how you say that? Is it Hmong or is it Hung? I don't know. I'm not an expert. Now people will laugh at me and go, you're just ignorant, Sam. I know I live in Utah and I'm white and I'm totally ignorant. I get it. At the same time, I'm not ignorant because I'm bringing truth to power. It isn't about their community. It isn't about her religious beliefs. It is about her illegal status, if true. She's the one that claimed it. If she's not illegal, then why'd you say you were illegal? Well, I wanted to make a point that undocumented immigrants aren't the bad guys. Look, they can come here as a refugee and turn into a good person. Look, I'm a good person and I got elected. And okay, fine. But you still got to discuss who you're going to represent. Is it this group of people? When your father broke the law, is there going to be accountability for him breaking the law, or is it just like no harm, no foul? If there's no harm, no foul, please give me a list of laws that I'm allowed to break, would you please? Anyway, so you've got literally people that are claiming they're illegal winning elections now, folks. What's worse, a communist or an illegal running for election? In my world, would want good, honorable people obeying the laws. What do you think of that idea? And embracing, if they're going to swear an oath, can a communist swear an oath to the Constitution and be expected to obey it? Just wondering. All right, I'm Sam Bushman. Thanks for being alongside for the ride. Hard-hitting news the networks refuse to use. Talk is at libertyroundtable.com. We are syndicated by the Loving Liberty Networks. LovingLiberty.net. Spread the word, share the love, and God save the Republic of the United States of America.